Right now, we're at this inflection point and people are scared of losing their jobs. So how do you approach leveraging technology and getting people to buy into that long-term vision and plan and be willing to embrace it?
Yeah, it's a crazy time right now. Of course, everybody has that initial fear like, oh gosh, what is this going to do? How's this going to impact us? The best way to handle those fears is
Today's guest is Rich Flanagan. He is the Executive Vice President and Partner at Centralized Vision, virtual safety and security monitoring, helping companies nationwide implement affordable virtual security solutions that save time and reduce costs. The conversation explores how the company has leveraged technology and AI to drive growth while shaping a strong workplace culture.
and the same stuff that would take you hours, if not days, you can do in 15, 20 minutes. It's insane. The data that we're receiving now out of these systems is so good and actionable. You don't want to miss because they're like, well, how did you miss that? It was right there. You had a quality alert for it. You build stuff like this. Accountability makes people do two things. It either makes them go forward or retract, right? The ones that really buy in are the ones that are really bought into your ideology or vision. Sometimes you outgrow employees. And the reason is where you're going, they don't maybe fully see.
I know within your organization, you guys have leveraged a lot of technology, obviously on the monitoring, but even in the process side of things. And I think this forcing us to get better is relevant and help us understand some of the things that you've done in leveraging technology to how you've been successful in doing it.
Yeah, lots of cool stuff. I developed a proprietary web application that we call
All right. Hello and welcome everybody to Leaders of the Workplace of Tomorrow. Today, I'm excited to have Rich Flanagan with Centralized Vision. And Rich, to get started, why don't you just give us a little bit of background on what you've been doing, your history in the workplace, and share some of the exciting things that you guys are doing at Centralized Vision and leveraging technology and empowering people.
Yeah, kind of an interesting run over these last 7 years, but I was 20 plus years, and that's kind of how you and I connected or bonded was 20 plus years in the mortgage industry, first as an originator, just getting started out of college. And then after the crash of '08, ended up taking kind of an ownership position in a company right after. And we grew that company from just a small, one branch operation over the next 10 years to a 55 branch operation across the Southwest. And it was a really good run. Saw a lot of changes in the market and things that, we were having to deal with, price compression, things like that. And, it's one of those industries that you're in it for one reason, and that's to make money. And, I really wanted to do something, put my stamp on something else. And so I started having some conversations with my partners, ended up selling out. At the same time, having conversations with Tom. Tom is a lifelong friend. I've known him since high school. And reconnected after college, and I saw what they started. I'm like, oh, these guys are onto something. And we always kind of joked about partnering someday because we became very good friends. Our family became very good friends. And right about that same time, I was telling him like, look, I'm thinking I'm backing out of this. And he's like, gosh, I think this might be a good time to really start having these conversations about potentially you coming on board. And so, yeah, I sold out of one, and I came into an agreement to partner with Tom and Tammy, and
Yeah.
I haven't looked back. It's been about 7 years now, which is insane.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's already been 7 years. But when I came in, the company lacked some infrastructure, and so obviously you're nervous knowing that things you can see that you want to do with a company, but you're changing complete verticals.
Yeah.
But what I realized, pretty quick on during that transition was business principles are business principles, and they're transferred to any vertical. And so we just, obviously started applying some of those principles to Centralized Vision, and I haven't looked back since.
Tell us a little bit about, Centralized Vision, what you guys do, how you help your customers, and and then, kind of leading into some of the change that you've been implementing here the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's been a ton. We are a national security operations center. When I first started, when we partnered together, we did almost all of our business was direct to consumer or customer, I should say, B2C kind of stuff. And one of the big things that I was going to come in and do is really build infrastructure around transitioning us from a direct to a wholesaler. So with that, a lot of infrastructure needed to be built in. That's where kind of Salesforce came in. I really had this ideology in my head that there's a reason that franchises work. The franchises work because there's process. Everything is documented. It's executable. It's predictable. And that includes not only for your partners, your customers, but also for your employees. So, at the beginning of coming in here, it was a lot of just kind of analyzing what our weaknesses were, where we needed to be strong, because to handle kind of real hockey stick growth, we had to have really sound infrastructure. And so just started kind of putting that together. Kind of institutionalize what we call our smart partner platform, where we have, probably a couple hundred partners now across the country. So, because we don't sell or service equipment, we are just strictly a monitoring company. So when we say monitoring company, for the folks out there that haven't really elaborated on that, the camera systems you see in buildings and things like that, we, other than like a burglar alarm and fire alarm, we actually bring those cameras to life and do proactive monitoring. So we have command centers both here in Phoenix, Arizona, as well as in Mexico, redundant center down there. They look like NASA. They're huge with screens everywhere, a big shell that people sit behind. And we watch those across the country, across any vertical.
And you're using AI and things within that monitoring, right?
Oh gosh, yeah. I feel like we're reinventing ourselves almost on a daily basis right now, Steve. Because of AI and the efficiencies that we grab with it, it's making us constantly, it's pushing us in a really good way to rethink how we do things in a number of different ways, from the way we employ people, the way we deploy those people internally. It's just made us really step back and think about a lot of things. It drives crazy efficiencies, and it's just getting started. We're super excited about where we're going and the things that we're doing, but it's been a beast. And, it's one of the big things right now for us is that it raises the expectation out of a company like ours. And that's a good thing, but also puts more pressure on you what I mean by that is the data that we're receiving now out of these systems is so good and actionable. You don't want to miss, because they're like, well, how did you miss that? It was right there. You had a quality alert for it. So for us now, where people are saying, oh, you have to have less people, and my logic is a little different, where the people become even more paramount in what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're making sure that you have good people that are sitting there, that they're acknowledging all those alerts, that we're delivering on the scope of work, that customers are feeling the impact of our business. So now humans are becoming, for me and for us, even more important, because we're a company that, I always say we're an experience company, and that experience is not just for our partners, it's also for our customers. And we work hard to make sure they feel the impact of that. And with AI, that levels us up in a really positive way, but it also levels up the game in a different way that, you don't want to mess up. Yeah.
Yeah. It's forcing you to get better.
It is.
Some days we just don't want to get better.
Exactly.
Right? But it's forcing us to get better.
Yeah, 100%. It's a crazy time right now. But like you said, it's, and because what I was going to say too is that you still have humans and you still have technology, right? And so they're not always perfect. And so there's still going to be issues and challenges. That's just in the name of the game. Our job is to try to minimize those as much as humanly possible, no pun intended, and make sure that, like I said, they're feeling the impact of that.
So I know within your organization, you guys have leveraged a lot of technology, obviously on the monitoring, but even in the process side of things. And, I think this forcing us to get better is relevant, and, help us understand some of the things that you've done in leveraging technology to how you've been successful in doing it, right?
Yeah.
And your thought process in making the organization better by thinking through what you're building and how you're designing that experience.
Yeah. We're the perfect example of like a small business getting bigger and investing in those things, because so many small businesses don't. And, for us, and to be able to handle the type of growth that we needed to be better and more efficient. And what people, and I think small businesses forget, is that it's a massive investment in time and energy, but the payoff down the road is 20-fold, 100-fold, because it allows you to be not only to keep human capital down, which, those are the two most expensive things, are, people and property, but it also, the level of efficiencies that you find for your employees, your customers, that radiates out. They feel the impact of those things. For us, I said, we consider ourselves an experience company, and that experience is both for our partners and customers, because we're trying to build champions right from the beginning, from the onboarding experience on through as they become a customer and a launched customer for us. So the process in which they feel that white glove approach, onboarding them on and getting them into our command center is paramount. So for us, it was, and when I first started, it was probably a good year to sit back, and I started working on the smart partner thing, but I had a chance to sit back. I had an amazing partner and Tom that, had 20 plus years in the business. So I was able to sit back and kind of watch what he was doing, but also kind of watch the holes of where we can find efficiencies. And I think in some ways you're lucky as a smaller company because you can grow with it. It's much harder to do this when you're a 200, like I've done this. I've rolled CRMs out when it was, 300-400 people. That's a whole different animal. Then we were able to grow with it, and be able to kind of see the different ways in which we wanted to find efficiencies. So, it first started out by just being able to track our customers, where they were, pipelines, being able to do forecasting, all those things. So we started kind of with that. And then you build in like workflows to your team. So you start integrating your team so you can kind of see where everything is. So you can build automations, for those workflows. So when a deal comes in, where it is, who's responsible for what, there's such a checks and balances within that. And then you have invoicing, you have partner commissioning, you have employee commissioning. So it's just one by one, we started, doing those things, with your guys' assistance. And then at the same time, we were also I developed a proprietary web application that we call Vic, that is basically kind of the central hub of us once a deal gets in. So when a specialist sits down in a station, they log in, they're at this station, it tells them exactly what they're supposed to be doing. And we created even automations around that. So when an opportunity comes in, we build profiles for them. It automates to send to the customer. They fill out automated form, like they receive an email, login credentials. It literally walks them through the scope building process. And then when they submit it in, we check all that stuff and then put all the technical details in, which it's really cool, but it's become literally the central hub of our company from an operations standpoint. So to say that we've spent an enormous amount of time, energy, and money, and resource on a technology would be an understatement, but it's got us where we are right now. And, if you would have asked us 5 years ago that we needed to launch 100 sites, we get a big enterprise level customer, we needed to launch 100 sites in, 30 days, we would have been in a panic, I don't now we would gobble that up in seconds. I mean, shoot, we launched the largest school district here. We work with, Mesa Public Schools. It was the largest school district in Arizona, 93 schools. And we did it over the 4-day weekend going into Thanksgiving. So it just shows
That's
you, like,
incredible.
if we need to, we can. And all that is because of automations and having a great workflows and an amazing team.
So how does that, culturally, what has that process been like? I think, right now we're at this inflection point and people are scared of losing their jobs and scared to, give up too much information for fear of losing that job. So how do you approach leveraging technology and getting people to buy into that long-term vision and plan and be willing to embrace it?
Yeah. I imagine, like, for us, for me, I'm 52 years old. So like I'm towards the end of my career and this is happening. So at an older age, it's making me rethink everything. But I'm somebody that just leans into stuff, right? And at first you're like, of course, everybody has that initial fear, like, oh gosh, what is this going to do? How's this going to impact us? How do we stay ahead of this? But when you really start digging in, and I implore everybody to, like, start doing your research, listen to podcasts, jump on YouTube, listen to people talk about it, because you'll see just the level of power and impact that it can have in your world, but also allows you to stay ahead of the curve and make sure that you stay relevant. Because I truly believe that the people that invest time in what it does is it makes you a 10x you. You don't have to worry about eliminating.
Yeah.
It just makes you so much better of a you. And that's where I think that people's mind, they have to do a mind shift, because what they're worried about is that replacing them. No, it's not going to replace you. There's still humans that need to be involved. And the more you read and hear and listen about these things, there are still going to be humans involved. It's just what you do with it and how you leverage it. It makes you so much more powerful and so much more valuable. I tell my kids, like, you should be every day pouring your heart and soul into this stuff, to try to learn as much as you possibly can, because that's what's going to keep you relevant, and that's what's going to make you relevant in conversation, as well as making you invaluable within a workplace or organization. There's always like create value for yourself. Well, nowadays you better know something about AI in the professional world because it's coming and it's coming fast. But people need to embrace it. It's a really good thing.
So describe the transition that you've had in leveraging technology and building this culture to get people to embrace technology. And you had kind of a story recently that you shared with me where your team kind of united together in the challenge of building a solution. But I think that embodies what world we're stepping into. So yeah, would love to kind of hear your thoughts on that whole transition and what you're seeing take place.
Yeah, and I think it's important for business owners as they continue to grow, understand a really kind of a cold hard truth. And if anybody knows me, I'm such a relationship guy, and that includes our employees. But sometimes you outgrow employees. It's just an unfortunate thing. You do everything you can to repurpose, whatever. But and the reason is where you're going, David might not always, they don't maybe fully see. It's funny when you build stuff like this, accountability makes people do two things. It either makes them go forward or retract, right? And so with these platforms, the ones that really buy in are the ones that really bought into kind of your ideology, your vision. And so the ones that are in and that believe in what you're doing, they're so in and they're so invaluable because we constantly were collaborating. I'm a big, like, I get those big stickies in the office, and we'll sit and I'm a visual person. So we'll just talk and draw. And like, that's how we built Vic. That's how we did a lot of the kind of built the requirements for what we wanted for Salesforce, things like that. But I think it's so important. And again, I'm luckier as a small company growing that started really doing hyper growth versus a larger company because, we're able to implement things a little bit easier, which is great. But big, medium, or small, you have to have buy-in, and the biggest way to have that is doing lots of feedback, lots of collaboration. Let them feel like they're part of that process. It's absolutely critical because then they feel like they're part of that solution. And so in a lot of ways, we had a lot of fun doing it. As you're growing and you feel these little pain points like, oh my gosh, we can automate that. Let's do this. We can automate that. And so there's just, and within that, you get this crazy buy-in and synergy. We've done such a great job with the help of you and our developers for Vic over these last several years of really automating almost all our entire company. But I would say there's that last 10%. And so that last 10% is like the conversations you have in the hallway or do this or projects you're working on, things like that. And so we implemented ClickUp, which obviously it integrates across all platforms as well, from Salesforce, Teams, your email, all those things. And it was crazy that why automation is so awesome is because it removes people's brains from the equation. Because when you don't have things documented, all you're thinking about all the time is, oh my gosh, did I forget that? Oh crap, I forgot that. Or you'll be laying in bed, you're like, oh my God, I forgot that. Automation and documentation and systems allow you to work more freely. And so that last 10% was critical too, because it was those constant little projects. Oh gosh, we did this, we did that, things that are kind of outside of like Salesforce. And so we started putting this together. And then with the fact that it was integrated with all these things, man, the team got like so into it, and it's been a raging success. We've only had it for less than 90 days, and they're just like in love with it because again, it allows them to work freely. And the biggest thing too is, and probably a lot of business owners or leaders can appreciate this, sometimes you give workloads to people and you don't know exactly what the breaking point is, or sometimes you're just going in action and you just, oh yeah, do this and do this and do this. And you're like not really paying attention. I just gave them 75 things, right? With things like ClickUp, people think that, there's a misnomer about that people feel micromanaged. The reality is it's quite the opposite. The very small piece might, that's because maybe they're trying to fly under the radar. But the reality is most people want to just go in, know what they have to do, what are tasks involved, and feel accomplished in that. So by having these things kind of documented on one dashboard, not only does it give visibility to your leaders, like your operations managers, your owners, things like that, to see, hey, what's going on within my organization? What's been delegated to certain people? How fast are we completing tasks? Why are certain things taking longer? All those things now get factored in. But the good thing is they're out of their head, right? They're able to think freely and work freely, allows them to be more creative. And like the amount of time and efficiency that it finds is crazy.
Well, I mean, you're giving them that freedom though, right? And like with that freedom, like they're coming alive and owning the solution as opposed to the approach of make them accountable, right? Like, hey,
Yeah.
use this system. It's gonna like do this or do that. It's more open. Like, hey, we need to solve this problem.
Yeah. Yes.
Help us solve it,
Yep.
and that brings a whole new life to the organization.
It does. And like I said, well, the more they're involved, the more they feel like they're part of that solution, which is exactly what you want them to feel. You want them to be, and that's how people feel value within their organization, not just valued, but value, like that they feel that they're bringing value into the organization. And that's keeps people coming back every day. So we want them to feel, and I, especially me, want them to feel and know how much a critical part of the team is and how much we value that information. And we might not always go with exactly what they're saying, but they know that they had a voice. And again, culturally, that's everything, especially when you're implementing these types of things early on as a small to mid-sized company.
Yeah. Where do you kind of see, things standing right now? How do you keep building on this and accelerating towards that future, and kind of give us an update, I guess, of where Centralized Vision is at, and, who you serve, who you can help?
Yeah, look, lots of good things in front of us. Like I said, the thing is that Tom and Tam already had a pretty dang good reputation in the market. They were kind of pioneers in an industry that didn't exist. Virtual monitoring, man, you can only imagine where internet was 20 years ago, and camera quality and all those things. So we trudged through that part of it, but with that now, we have continued on to that reputation by creating these experiences, right? And the experience is all made possible because of all the things that we built into this company through automations and systems and processes. Because our partners love us because we make things so easy. They go on, they fill a form. I'm a sales guy at heart. I've always been a sales guy, so I'm a down the river guy, right? I want to be able to give as much information as I can up front and send it down the river. And I always say, like, if we need you, we'll pull you back in. If there's a hair sticking up, you can help us pat it down. But for the most part, we want you to go back out there and find another one. We got you on this one. Through the systems, we keep them informed on what's going on, and our team and then like our Tasha, our project manager, she does such an amazing job of keeping everybody kind of in the loop on what's happening kind of in real time. With that, it is allowed us to, our reach and the quality of companies now we're dealing with is just at another level. We're working on more large enterprise level customers than we ever have, through our partners. We work with some, if not the largest integrators in the country. So it's really allowed us, because of the things that we've done, allowed us to have these conversations, be invited on into the table in these conversations, which is an exciting place for us. So the sky's the limit. It's been a little bit of a weird pivot over these because AI has really only started making an impact 2-3 years, right? It's crazy. It feels like here forever. In our world, because market adaptation, adoption, things like that, it's taken a little bit of time to get going. So for us, we're a practical application, right? So it's cool to have cool stuff, but now what does it look like in practical application? So it's taken us some time to kind of see how the impact, the ways we can leverage it, the efficiencies we can find, how we can leverage our people more effectively, efficiently, continuing to drive up things like wages, but also their happiness within our organization. So kind of an all boats rise with the tides. You try to keep people capital down, but it allows you to then take, kind of increase pay and things like that, because you're able to suppress down here. You know what I'm saying? So the more efficiencies that you find, it really is kind of like I said, it all boats rise with the tide.
Yeah. Are there any, I was thinking as you're talking about this, like, are there any similarities you see? Like, your company's been forward thinking and leveraging AI in your monitoring, right? And so now as AI becomes more relevant in the workplace, like what are the similarities between those two things? It's just that, like, how does this get applied over time? I feel like you've been very deep in the weeds in applying it on the monitoring side, but now it's shifting to, okay, how do we apply this to humans?
Yeah, operation side of it. And Steve, to be honest, that is the stuff that I'm like knee deep in the middle of right now. And what I realized as I started to educate myself more, going in, and I'd watch like YouTube videos of all these different creators and influencers talking about different products. Oh, this one's the greatest, or this one's the greatest. And what I started realizing is a lot of them are kind of half baked. They when they're advertising it, they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. I got to have that. Then you start getting into it and a little clunky, a little broken. So things are still evolving and it's happening relatively quick. I would say be careful, like with where you fully invest, make sure you're doing your due diligence, you're doing some practice stuff with it and testing and things like that. But right now, that's exactly where I'm at right now. How do I leverage things like agents and things like that to find efficiencies? Being able to step back now, the same way we did 7 years ago with the company, saying step back, like how do we build in automations and process, throughout the company? Now it's stepping back again, going, how do I leverage AI in a way that will help, again, drive efficiencies, help support our specialists, as well as, most importantly, like our admin team, our ops team. So those are the things that we're kind of evaluating right now, from all the way through, from operations to marketing to PR to everything. It's right now, it's a lot of kind of research and things like that and we've already done it. We've already used avatars and we're starting to do AI for all of our training. So now when a specialist come in, one thing about training is you want it to be good, you want it to be consistent and all those things, right? And so now by having it done like this, they sit down, it's the same person. They're never in a bad mood. They're never late. The trainer's always in a good spot. They sit down, they watch a decent portion of things, so they're learning. Then they stop, take maybe a little quiz. Then they go over, they do practical application within the command center. Boom, then they come back. So it allows us to even level up our training because we can train more people at the same time versus doing, like, remember, you're doing training in person. You can only get a couple down at a time. You know what I'm saying? With this, the sky's the limit. And it's really allowed us, it's kind of like doing recordings, the old school recordings like this. If you had to re-record something, you have to edit. It's a pain, right? You have to re-record. You're probably wearing something different, a different shirt, different haircut, whatever it might be, because it was, 6, 8, 12 months later. And so to redo those things constantly, it's time consuming as heck. It's cost prohibitive. But now with AI, I'll plug this company because so far they've been pretty awesome. This company called Synthesia, but it gives you all that control of like having, here's the avatar, here is all of the content. It allows you to do screen shares and like you're like highlighting different things. It allows you control of how they move. It allows you control the inflection and the way you speak because the English language has a lot of different variations of how you say something, right? And so it allows you to say, no, that word sounds like this. Like instead of saying VIC, we want you to say VIC Vic. So we put in sounds like, and we put like VICK in it, and it will read it like Vic, if that makes sense. So it's things like that now what's cool about it is you have hours of training and something changes. Like for us right now, we're going through a massive change, implementing a unified VMS within our company. Our training is going to change completely. We don't have to scrap everything. We can go in and change those sections without having to start over again. So already and that's a building content, that, like building content, writing outlines, all, presentations, the efficiencies that you find with this stuff. Oh my God. And the same stuff that would take you hours, if not days, you can do in 15, 20 minutes. It's insane.
Well, and that I've noticed that conversation recently. Everybody's thought of AI as a tool, and if done right, it's more than a tool, right? Like it's really a role in your organization that you're building out and providing it the context and the focus to execute on that role. Really, and no different than humans, right? We need a role. It's just AI can only do certain things, right? And that's where, as humans, we can do more than what this agent can do. And we can design and train these agents and give them a role that we no longer want to have, and ensure that it gets executed.
Yeah, like the way we want to roll it out and leverage it in the future is, as AI powered support. So at any hour of the day, that they could just literally talk to Vic themselves and ask questions of, like our partners saying, hey, I'm doing a presentation tomorrow and I need 5 compelling reasons why virtual garb brings value in a auto shop or an industrial center. And it literally is just talking to you and answering questions in real time. So those things are coming and the way we're leveraging it. But, it's funny, Steve, I have a company that developers in UK for this stuff, and they're great guys. And, talking about they're at the tip of the spear. I mean, they're brilliant, but they're like, even they have the temper themselves a little bit, saying, still, it's like 87% of the world still hasn't even used AI. The amount of people that even tried it one time. So it's becoming more prominent every single day. But it's, it still has some maturity to go through. And that's why I tell people, like, especially like my kids, they're who are in professional age now, that you have to invest time in this to make sure that you're staying ahead of the curve. So the tsunami that's coming does not take you out.
Yeah. Well, and it still is, I think it's, we're in that realization phase right now
Yeah,
where AI is only as effective as the people who are guiding it,
yeah, it is. It's a
right?
prompting and everything. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
And that's the new role, right?
yeah.
That's the new workplace. Like is innovating and ideating and being able to guide these agents to do the work that we no longer want to do.
And that's where we started, like, how we're implementing. For me, I'm still trying to develop and figure out how exactly we're going to leverage these agents. Like, you see the people all the time, like, you'll go on like, oh, I started $1 million business and I automated everything. And, I don't respond to my email. I don't do this. And I'm thinking to myself, how is that possible? Like, my email and things like that are so individualized. And I know most people think like me, basic sales questions, things like that, support questions. Yeah, you could do that. But at the level that I work, I'm not letting some bot or some AI agent right now just fully respond to my emails. You know what I'm saying? But what's cool is that and these are the things like you want to start implementing, is it can start that process, meaning you can walk in and there's 20 drafts ready to go to responses. And you're just like, yep, that one looks good. That one looks good. So it's those little pickups that you're trying to do right now without trying to say, I'm going to, AI across my entire industry. That is coming. But for me, I guess I'm a little bit more tempered and deliberate in my approach. And I think a little bit more pragmatic, that I just want to make sure, Steve, I hate more than anything, because I dealt with this a lot in my old world. I hate launching things to then have to shift. You know what I'm saying? It's so frustrating. So I am not a guy that likes to fix a problem for today. I want to fix the problem for tomorrow and forever. Right. And so with that, I try to be thoughtful and mindful of that when we're putting things out, because not only is it frustrating for you, it's insanely frustrating for your employees and even more frustrating for your customers if you're constantly pivoting. So it's important to think through how you're implementing these things. And it's so tempting, like, oh my God, let's do that or let's do that. So I just say, lots of testing, lots of research, lots of, hey, like, how can this impact us? And it kind of is fun once you get going on it. There's some really cool stuff out
Yeah.
there. It'll blow your mind. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think I've always said, that like from 0 to 1, Peter Thiel, but like you're either committed to leveraging AI and technology in your business or you're not, right? It's binary. It's a 0 or a 1. And one thing that through all of your challenge, like you've always been committed, right, to doing it. And that really is the most important thing. Like, are you, willing to stay with the process and keep learning? And because it just gets better over time and it compounds.
Yeah, it's something that nothing's impacted us like this in a century. But at the same time, I know it's easy to say, but we always pivot. There's always, I think it was like 30,
Yeah.
the stat was like, I think the 30s or 40s, it was 40% of the workers were working in fields, in farms. Obviously it's a 0.001% of that now, because of, technology and industrial the world. And it's the same thing right now. The world will pivot into this. It's just the uncertainty of it obviously proves fearful for a lot of people, and I totally get it. I have fears, is I want to make sure that I'm staying ahead of this, and it is not moving too fast. But like I said, the best way to handle those fears is to lean in, because it'll make you feel a lot better about it.
Well, Rich, thank you so much for coming on the show today. And could you let any guests know where to find you, where to reach out if they have any prospective clients or questions to follow up with you?
Yeah, but first of all, I got to give you guys a shout out. We haven't even discussed our relationship. I don't think even in the depth that we can. Obviously, Opti has had such an immense impact on our company, and I feel like I almost grew with you in a lot of ways. And you guys have just such a same like ideology of that we do. of making sure that you're putting your customer first. I feel like you guys are truly an extension of our company now. I could hire half your developers and they could come in and start working tomorrow because they know every facet of our business and what we do and what's important to us and all those things. But the fact that, we have continued to learn each other and find efficiencies even in that relationship, it's made a massive world of difference. And all these years later, now it's like having conversations of, hey, we want to do this. They already know all the backstory. So to implement something new, it takes no time at all. And so people, if you're looking for somebody to work with, I could not recommend Opti enough. They will dive in, and they have had such an immense impact on us. And we hope that continues on for a really long time.
Well, thank you very much, Rich. And that's, a partnership. Like it's been your commitment. And, we're super excited to be working with you guys and excited for the future. But I do want to make sure, as far as where to find you and Centralized Vision.
Yep. If you're a customer integrator, we still do business direct. We just, it's on a much smaller basis now because we work with partners all across the country. So if you're an integrator, you can find us at centralizedvision.com or richf@centralizedvision.com. But if you're a customer, if you're looking for enhanced security solutions, obviously people are becoming more expensive. They're becoming more scarce, like physical guarding, and technology is getting so good right now that it's really allowed us to apply a service that's so impactful that you don't need those physical guards as much, And I would say we have partners that are physical guard companies, and they would agree that most of the time there's always going to be a place for physical guards, but most of the time they're deployed incorrectly. Technology is just evolved so much and allows us to leverage it in ways that have incredible impact virtually, to really stop incidents before they occur. So take that time, stop using your security equipment as forensic advice to find out who got you after the fact. Start doing things that are proactive at a fraction of the cost of it would put a physical guard out there.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Rich. And thank you, everybody. And we'll see you again next time.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate you.